Neduchim kahoi vaitz ay 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 ay. Hay shiv loy nema, you shiv loy nema, kim shav ki vaitz. Borechi Elohayni, na 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 na. Asher toivgim oloni, kerachma v'charav chasudav. Higdil, luni, ayla v'chu, ayla, na 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 na. Ya harisa, haifi moni, lehagdil shmai, agudel agiva v'naira, shenikra ulayni. Ay burechi alayni, shebroni l'chvaydai, shebroni l'chvaydai. Ay la halalai la shabchai la saper hayda hay mikalayim guver alayni chastai na 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 l'chaim b'cholayim b'chol nefesh b'chol mahayin nam lichayin yachtoi. Adonai Melech Adonai Molech Adonai Yimlech Li'aylam V'ed Adonai Melech Adonai Molech Adonai Yimlech Li'aylam V'ed Oy Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Adonai Melech She'ashuloim Shelah Yotzei Molayni Chayim Brocha V'Shulaymi Yomeri Mismaho Smola Miyomen Al Yisru Al Shulayim Ay Rachmani Yevureich Es amay v'shulayim Ay Rachman Hi Yevorech Es amay Yisru Gal Bashulayim V'zekayni L'rais Bonem Bonem Emnai Bonem Oiskim B'Torah Yiva Mitzvahs Oiskim B'Torah Yiva Mitzvahs Al Yisru Al Shulayim Pele Yoretz El Gibor Aviyat Sashulayim Pele Yoretz El Gibor Aviyat Sashulayim Hallelujah Hoida Adonai Cholai B'Soi Dishurim Aida G'doi L'Masi Adonai Drishim L'Chol Cheftzayhem Hoid V'Hu Dar Pulai Vetzid Kusayay Medes Luad Zayin Cherus Alene Fleisav Chanen Verachim Adonai Teref Nusan Lerayav Yiz Kol Yoilam Brisoi Koyach Mas V'gid Lamai Lusais Luhem Nachlas Goyim Ma It already was. Masiyudav emesim mishpadem unem kol pkidav smichim la'laylam siyim bemes biyusham pedishalach lamay tziva liyaylam brisay kudaish v'nay rashmay reshis chachma yiras alinay Teichel toiv l'choy seihem tehelu soy medes lu'ad Hallelujah Ashra Yishus Adonai B'mitzvos of Chufaytz Me'oid Gibar B'oretz Yezarai Do Yisharim Yivarach Hoin ve'aishe bevaisai b'tzidkusai medes lulad. Zurach b'choi shechoi laisharim chanen verachim v'tzadik Toi v'shchainani malvei chelkel dvorav b'mishpat Ki li'olam lo'yimait l'zaycher olam yeh tzadik Mishmiar wa'layirah Nachem Levi butiach b'Adonai Somech Levi lo'yirah Ad asher yireh v'tzirav Pizanu san lulav yainem tzidkusay medes luvad Kanai turaim bechuvay Roshe yireh v'chuvas Shinav yachraik v'namas Tabas ushoyim toivayid Shiram alois ashrei kol yirei Adonai ha'hai lahei V'derocha v'yigia kapecha Ki seichel lashrecha b'toiv lach Eshtecha kegefen Koiri aviyaksevei Secha b'necha kishlei zeisim Saviv l'shulchanecha Hinechi chen yivorach Gevei yirei Adonai Yivarechecha Adonai Mi yitzi yonerei b'tivye Rishalayim kol yimei chayecha Reivonim levonecha Shulayim al Yisrael Shiram alois ledobed Inei matoi v'imanoyim Shevesachim gam yochad Kashem l'toiv al-roish Yehiz l'kut zakanar Shiyod al pid midoisav Talcha mashiyod al hara Reitzi yon kishom tzivadai Es habrocha Ananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananananan Droi kral levenim bas Neim sachem kemoivo vas Nerim shemchem v'lo yishbas Shvi v'nichi b'yoim Shabbat V'ilo mi voice yesha seivi V'tasrei rek v'soich karmi Shei Shabbos b'nei yami Droich pira b'soich botzra V'gam bovel ashe govra V'soich tzurai b'yaf v'evra Shmakeli b'yoim ekra Lo yimtein b'midbar har Hadashita b'drosh tidhar V'la mazir v'la nizhar Shloimim tein K'mei nahar Hadoich kumai el kana B'moig leivav u'mamagina B'nachiv ben u'malena V'shoinin ilacharina Deichach melenavshacha Vehi chesed liroishacha Mitzar mitzvahs Kiroishacha Shmor Shabbos Kodshecha Shabbos hayoyim Adonai Motzala v'rininai V'gam harbi madonai L'shma kutzus Adonai Shabbos hayoyim Adonai Me'avod arefik vilim Me'aseis hayoyim peulim Le'achol v'lishtois v'lilim Nayim Adonai Shabbos hayoyim Adonai V'im tishboniyah Yitzarcha k'vavas Ata v'vincha v'gam abbas V'kurasoy negla Shabbos Yitztisana Adonai Shabbos hayoyim Adonai Echel mashmanim imadanim Imatam emarbe minim Goyze perech v'ri Moinim v'chol tezavata v'yach Adonai Shabbos hayoyim Adonai Larich b'shilchan lechem chamidois Laseis hayoyim shalosh sidois Es Hashem enichbad l'v'reich Eloi doishik v'shim v'asa v'nai Shabbos hayoyim Adonai Yovech Saif Nayam Shabbos Ay 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 Hamasemes Imesachedes Bezgilosecha Shoyich Nayam Yirasecha Ay 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 Liyam evachshay Ritzaynecha Kadeshem B'kedishas HaShabbos Ay 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 misachedes b'soyrosecha p'sach loem vayem b'rotzoy liftayach sharei ritzoynecha Yorech soif noyam Shabbos hamaseh mesiyim misachedes Ay 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 besgelo sevacha Ay 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 veshma shoim rai mitzapim Shabbos kodshacha Mayayel taroy glafike moyim Kei nafsham taroy glakabel noyam Kedisha Shabbos Hamisachedes B'shem kodshecha Ivaya misachedes Ayayay b'shem kodshecha Hatzel meyachrai Lefraish mina Shabbos Levilti siyes Ogur mehem Shisha yamim amikablim kadisha Ayayay mi Shabbos kodshecha Taheli bal lemisabimina Oy vay li avshababecha Yorech soif noyam Shabbos hamaseh mesiyim misachedes Oy ay ay b'sgelo sebachom Oy birachmecha rachmecha miskoy lalim al midoisecha birachmecha Rachmecha misgoy l'lim alam kodshecha Rachmecha misgoy l'lim alam kodshecha Rachmecha misgoy l'lim alam kodshecha Rachmecha miskoy l'lim alam kodshecha Rachmecha miskoy l'lim alam kodshecha Rachmecha miskoy l'lim alam kodshecha Birachmecha miskoy l'lim alam kodshecha Birachmecha miskoy l'lim alam kodshecha Birachmecha miskoy l'lim alam kodshecha le'ashkois Tzmei Minahar hayatzim eyeden V'yateres Yisroel B'sferes V'tzamas Chubim Shabbos Lidei Shabbos Kodshecha Kol Shisha Yomim Lanchilam Nachos V'yankoif B'chir Evecha Ya Orech Soif Noyam Shabbos Hamasemes Igi Mesachedes Ay 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 b'sgelo sevacha
Oh, light bulbs when you're burning out light bulbs.
Oy ha-Shabbos Noyam in shomois V'yashvi yoyne kurichais V'yayden anifushois lesadein Yahavosecha yigiv yirosecha Shabbos kodesh nafshi choilas Ahavosecha nafshi choilas Ahavosecha Shabbos kodesh nefushes Yisruel b'tzel knefech yitzoyin yevid l'deshem b'eisecha Yah Evach soif noyam Shabbos hamaseh mesiyim misachedes ay 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 besgilo sabacho ay 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 da 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 ay da 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 ay da 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 ay 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 find ourselves now inside even this man such a high time. Zohar calls the Rabbi the Rabbin Rotzen Shebrotzen. The highest, the sweetest, sweetest is sweet, highest of the high. Most desirable time of the whole week, Shas Rabbi the Rabbin Shal Shabbos Kodesh, and even more so if the Sefer Shabbos, we're ailing onto the Shabbos. This is what the Prophet Obadiah says, Beis Yaakov Eish, Beis Yosef Lahava. The house of Jacob is a fire, and the house of Joseph is a flame shooting out. So too, the extension of Shabbos, the Sefer Shabbos, is the need of Yosef at Tzaddik. The fire of Shabbos and the flame that shoots out from Shabbos to burn up all the straw of Yisrael. Oh,
it's
very difficult to talk at such a holy time. I might not say the right things, so I'm asking forgiveness if I say the wrong things. But we'll just have a nice schmooze together this very holy time. Time that's a little bit like Yom Kippur. All the more so this week. Tzaddikim says the Shabbos Noch Yontiv says Noch Yontiv. The word Noch in Yiddish means both after and still. So the Shabbos, it's after a holiday, it's still that holiday. And even though Hanukkah ended this week, the lights of Hanukkah are still shining on this Shabbos, perhaps all the more so. We can accomplish at this time, Shalashudas. We can fix everything that we might not have done properly in Hanukkah. Make a tikkun on all the past things of Hanukkah. And we can bring that light into the future, into the whole year. Bring the light of Shabbos into the week by extending Shabbos into the weekdays. Also, this week coming up, just before Shabbos, we have the only fast day that happens on a Friday, Sarbat Tevis. And at this point, the real inside of that holiday is revealed. That really it's not a fast day, but the Prophet Zechariah says that those fast days will be turned into days of joy and rejoicing. And so that inner point will be revealed when Mashiach comes, Meher V'Yameinu Amen, is really here now in this Shabbos. Oy. Tzaddikim say, the Kriyas Ma'or this man, that which we read in the parsha of the week that awakens the time that we're living. That they said once to the Balatanya, you have to live with the times. He said, I do live with the times, I live with the parsha of the week. Every week's parsha, it's not only what we're reading, but it really encompasses who we are and where we are. And this week's parsha, Parshas Vayigash, Joseph reveals himself to his brothers, and they become friends again.
Taki! Taki home.
Joseph reveals himself to his brothers, and his father hears, "Oh, Yosef Chai," Joseph is still alive. There's so many things that can be woken from this reading, and specifically what we read this year in Tafshin Ayin Aleph. It never was before, never will be again. So we have to absorb all of the holiness of this Shabbos and bring it into our whole lives. And so this where Joseph and the brothers, they make peace. Joseph says, no, you thought you sold me for bad. Really, God sent me here, and don't worry and don't feel bad. It's all part of God's plan. This gives us the power to have Ahavas Chinam. We remember the second temple was destroyed because of Sinas Chinam, baseless hatred. And so it will be rebuilt for Ahavas Chinam, baseless love. Oy. But there's still 12 tribes. We can all have our own ways, our own customs, our own practices, our own ways in serving God. But those minor differences are nothing compared to those great, great amudim. This is what we hear from Rabbi Tzimmer Zilberberg Shlita. It's written in this. Most of the things I've said coming from his words. The great, great similarities are between with those great foundations of Torah, Avodah, Gemilas Chasodim, Torah study and service of God through prayer and mitzvahs, and Gemilas Chasodim, acts of kindness one to another in charity. That we all do, no matter if this one davens with this nusach and that one has that minhag. Doesn't matter. Main thing is we're all serving God. That's where Jewish unity comes from. And that's also the message of the menorah, which is of course the great Indian of Hanukkah. We still have the light of Hanukkah. When Moses tried to make the menorah, he wasn't able to make it because the menorah has different branches, but it's all from one solid piece. And that no human being, not even Moses, was able to do. To have the different branches all to have one solid piece of gold, rather than put together from different pieces. And so he threw the gold into the fire, and out came a menorah. And God made the menorah out of a miracle. Oy. And so too, anything that we have now, we can only have Jewish unity through God. Yes, we can have different branches, we can have our different approaches, just like the 12 tribes had their different nusach. So too, you can be this type of chassid, that type of chassid, Sephardi, Ashkenazi, whatever it is. But as long as it's dedicated to the Torah, dedicated to God, unified with God, that's how we can have authentic Jewish unity. Oy. And so we have to have love for one another, no matter what, even no matter what one did to another. Now is the time we can fix things. When Pinchas Karitzer said,
Bye-bye.
that when it says, "Ma'im panim l'panim," that just as water reflects the face, so too is the heart of one man to another, says King Solomon in the book of Proverbs. So too, if we try to feel love for our fellow, so too they will have love for us, and they'll put aside the differences, and we can all be united and serving Almighty God.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Oi. Another thing about Hindenburg, sleep that rings. So we have to have that balance between holiness and arrogance and the holiness of humility. And how there can be, everyone knows how poisonous arrogance can be, but so too humility can also be poisonous if used in the wrong way. And we have to have everything only in the side of holiness. The pride and arrogance has to be pride in being a servant of Almighty God. That's the way of Joseph. The humility is the way of Judah. And so first Joseph came and then Judah went down to Goshen. And the letters Goshna are the same letters that we have on the dreidel. It says, and he sent Judah before him to teach before him, to set up yeshivas. That's Goshna. Incidentally, back to what we were saying about unity. The Berach Moshe, the previous Satmar Rebbe, points out that they sent 6 wagons to Jacob, and that's why. And then it says after he saw these wagons, then his spirit came back. Why? Why 6? It's the same thing since the Berach Moshe, as what the Reb Shlomo Alkabetz says and the Shlach Kodesh says about the machzah shekel, the half shekel. Why a half shekel? To show that we're not whole without someone else. And so too the 12 brothers sent 6 wagons, because to show that they were with unity with one another. And then Jacob's soul was restored. And so when we get along, we restore the soul of our father Jacob. We restore Jacob, who symbolizes truth and simplicity and balance in the world. If we can all get along, even if we're different, it's fine, it's beautiful, it's lovely to have that mosaic of all the different types of people serving Almighty God. When we see who did Jacob send, he sent Joseph and he sent Judah. He sent Judah before him to set up yeshivas. We have to dedicate ourselves to Torah study. One of Goshna is the letters, the same letters of Nes Gadol Hayasham, the same letters that are on the Holy Dreidel. But Joseph went first. Joseph, who represents the arrogance of holiness, to be proud to be a servant of God. And that way we can overcome all the barriers. Joseph, who represents purity and holiness. And that's what it says, Od Yosef Chai, Joseph is still alive. No matter how much we think we've gotten lost in impurity and disgusting things in our own lives, I mean more than anyone else, we have to know Od Yosef Chai, Joseph is still alive. We can always come back to the level of holiness, the level of purity, Shmiras Bris, Shmiras Einayim, overcoming the obstacles. And then he sent Judah before him with humility. We know that the Gemara says that one of the reasons the temple was destroyed was because of the false humility of one of the great sages. He was too humble. And so if you're too humble, it's also a problem, but also if it's the wrong type of humility before the wrong type of way. We have to be strong and proud to be servants of God and not let anyone put us down, and not be absorbed by a culture around us that's trying to take us away. And that's what the big message is. Where did the children of Israel go? They didn't go into, even though they even had land in the best parts of Egypt, they said, no, we're going to go to Goshen. We're going to be separate. Even we're in exile, we're going to be separate from the Egyptian culture. We're not going to be absorbed into them. We're going to be a beacon unto them, bringing them light, but not let them influence us. We have to be very strong with this and very careful not to let ourselves become deteriorated by the corrupt culture around us. The holy Heiliger Reb Zisha, He said this is what it means. We have in Pirkei Avos, Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema said, and this is how the Shulchan Aruch begins, Hevi Azken Omer, we should be among the four animals that Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema says that we should emulate with various character traits. He says we should be arrogant and bold like a leopard. And then he says, as they put him like a hen and vicious put him like an Eden. The arrogant faced people, they go to hell, and the shamed-faced people go to heaven. But then it doesn't. What does it mean? It says that you should be arrogant like a leopard. The answer is no. It says if someone is proud to be a servant of God, they could even go into the very depths of hell. They could go to any place in the world and still be a servant of God and bring back sparks of holiness back to the side of holiness. But if someone is ashamed, if someone doesn't have that strength, they should just stay in heaven, just stay in the yeshiva and not leave. They shouldn't go out into the world to try to bring back more people. Oi, B'nai Shloilo. Hashem should have mercy on us. Mashiach should already come this week, and Mirz Hashem, we shouldn't have to fast, go into Shabbos fasting. Why were we fasting? Why do we fast in the Asar B'Teves? No one died in the Asar B'Teves. No one was killed. The walls of Jerusalem weren't even pierced. What happened? The siege of Jerusalem, that Jerusalem was surrounded, it says in the Book of Kings. That means that we have to recognize the difficulty of that we're surrounded. That we're surrounded by a culture. We have to keep the walls of Jerusalem strong. There's another reason why we fast on Asar B'Teves. Actually, it's the 8th day of Teves that this took place, but we fast on the 10th because we shouldn't be fasting for 3 days straight. The Septuagint was translated, the Targum HaShibim was translated at this time of the year. That the Torah was translated into Greek. And for this we fast. It's an amazing thing because a great miracle happened when the Torah was translated to Greek. When King Ptolemy asked 70 sages to be sequestered separately to translate the Torah to Greek. They knew that they couldn't translate it literally because it would cause many problems, and it's not meant to be translated literally. And so, but he wanted these 70 to be separate because he wanted a literal translation. And the miracle happened that those few places that had to be translated not in a literal way were thus all done the same way. And still, despite that, despite this miracle that happened, still we see it as a sad day. This comes in great contrast to Targum Onkelos, the translation into Aramaic, which we print side by side with the Chumash traditionally, and we treat it reverently as a holy translation, as something that we use as part of our liturgy. The Targum of Onkelos, the translation of Onkelos into Aramaic. What's the difference between these two translations? And the reason is because the Greek translation was a cold translation. It took out the soul from the Torah. It was just wanted to take the Torah, put it on the shelf with all the other books, and make it just another book in the library of the books of the world. The Targum Onkelos recognizes that the Torah is a living, breathing document. It's the word of the living God, and it's only applicable together with the oral Torah, and that's the whole message of Hanukkah, which is the holiday of the oral Torah. Beis Yaakov Eish, Beis Yosef Lahava. The house of Jacob is a fire, and the house of Joseph is a flame. to go out and burn all the straw of Esau. So too, when we study Torah, we have to take out all the coldness from the Torah. We have to be on fire for the Torah and fire with the Torah. We have to recognize the Torah is black fire on white fire, says our sages, given by the right hand of God. Eish das v'yaminoi, says in the book of Deuteronomy, that it's a fiery religion in his right hand. God gave us such a tremendous gift to be connected to his word. It has to be on fire, has to be filled with the Spirit of God. It can't just be a cold, dark way of studying. Not like you have people in the old, 100 years ago, there were people, they loved studying the Talmud so much, but they stopped being religious, so they would sit on the Sabbath and smoke a cigarette and study the Talmud. Professors who have a PhD in Talmud but don't live up to it. If you have a PhD in Talmud and do live up to it, it's a nice thing. You could, that's a different story. But those who don't live up to it, please help us, have mercy on us, that we should have unity and love and respect for one another. See the good in every Jew, in every community. Nachum Breslover says every Jew has a portion of Torah, all the more so every community. We have to see the goodness in one another and not the bad. Like the Rebbe Melech says, and this is one of the central teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, Adarabba, just the opposite, the holy prayer of the Rebbe Melech, just the opposite. We should only see the good in one another and not the bad in one another. We should be worthy to have only holy pride and not impure arrogance, and only holy humility and not impure humility. We should be worthy to have the fire of Hanukkah with us the whole year round. That's why every morning we say Mizmor Shir Chanukah Sabayis L'David. We say Psalm 30 every morning. Why? Because we need Hanukkah every day. In this darkness of Golis, this long winter that we call the exile, we need that light of Hanukkah, that last kiss that God gave us before we went into exile. And we have to know, Rabbi Zilberberg brings down, that the Toldos Yaakov Yosef, the Rebbe from Polnoi, brings in the name of the Baal Shem Tov every word of prayer and every word of Torah a Jew studies, and every word of prayer a Jew says. God is kissing our lips. We have to recognize how holy and great this is. That it's not just a cold study, but it's a devotion to Almighty God. Bring that light into the Torah, not the darkness that ensued after the Septuagint was translated. We should be worthy to see only good things, and have the light of Hanukkah, not only Psalm 30, but according to Nusach Sfardim, in the Nusach of the Sfardim, we say Lamed Seich, Psalm 67, also the Tzuras and Menorah every day, because we need Hanukkah every day. We need to know that just like it is on Hanukkah, that every wick and every oil is kosher, so too we all have holiness within us. We're all Chelek Elokam Imal Mamish. We have a connection to God that cannot be severed. Bring that light, Matamei Sar Tfachim, below those 10 handbreadths that it comes down on Hanukkah. We can have that now that the miracle of Hanukkah has happened. We can have that light every day. And we bring the light of the temple into our house, the Oregonus, the light that was hidden in the 7 days of creation. Where is that light? That light is in the Torah. A woman came to the Baal Shem Tov and said her husband was lost, and he opened up the Zohar and he was able to tell her where her husband was. How was that? Because the light that was hidden, it's not only that was hidden in the 7 days of creation, it wasn't just, when it says it was hidden for the future, for the tzaddikim, doesn't mean it's hidden just for when Mashiach comes. It's available now in every word of Torah. If a person studies Torah Lishma, said the Baal Shem Tov, if they learn Torah for its own sake, we can see with that original light. We have to fix our eyes through tears. This world has inundated us with so many pains and so many temptations. But as long as we're humble in our hearts, and we don't try to arrogantly say that impure arrogance of justification, that we cannot do, but rather just opposite. That's where we need humility. We have to admit to God, yes, we've sinned. Yes, we're not perfect. Only God is perfect. We all need to return to God. With that merit, we will be worthy to see again the light of the menorah in the temple, with the coming of Mashiach, Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David both. Just like in this parsha we have Joseph went to Egypt and then Judah. Reuniting the two worlds of Rachel and Leah. All the one unity of our father Jacob. We should know that no matter what, Od Yosef Chai, still alive, and our holiness is still alive, and it's still applicable, and it's still reachable. Don't tell yourself, oh, I'm too far away. No, you too can be holy if you try. And even if you don't succeed, try again. Sheva Yipol Tzadik Tukom. The holy, righteous person will fall 7 times, says King Solomon. But he'll get up again. And that's the point. We have to always get up again and never give up. That merit. God should have mercy on us and grace on us, even though we don't deserve anything. We should recognize that the thing we can do, we have no one else to rely on, only on our Father in heaven. And with mercy and kindness, God should make the revelation of Mashiach Tzidkenu B'Meir V'Yameinu Amen V'Amen. Yedik nefebeber shavorach mavavan Mishoich avdecha el ritzai nebebecha Yoretz avdecha vava k'moyai avabal yishtachavel miladarech avabal Yerahav loy didoi sebebecha minai fesefechal tovam Yerahav loy didoi sebebecha minai fesefechal tovam Adinore zifai lam nafshi choy la sahavos sebebecha Anarel navava refana laha Bandeis lana yadzi vebebecha Oz tis chazai kvesis rababavai voisala simcha sailam
Hey, you come here.
Vosik yamina rachamecha v'chisana v'bayna hivecha Hoy kisekama Nechsoif nechsababafti Lirois mehayrab Siferes izecha Oye lechamda libi V'chisana v'altir salam Anarei Chemdas libi Chisana v'altir salam Oye galeina Trois chavivi olai Esika shloi mecha to irerebets mikvoidecha baba negila v'nismecha bach maher hoif kiva mahoyed v'chunaini ki mayaylam maher hababayv Ohev kiva mayababayv v'chunaini ki mayaylam Evel mistater b'shaf rechev yoin asaychel v'nelam mikol rayoin Ilas olilois mich b'cheser el yoin keser yitni l'cho adinai Bereshis terascha ha'kedim arshimach achmoscha hastima meyayin timatzei v'hine lama Bereshis chachma yiras adinai Rechoi vaisana nachla yavena mayim amikim yidle meshtamina Tavoit soisel chamishim sharivina Eminim noitzer adoinoi hu v'hel agodoi leinechol negdecha V'chesed godoi ala shumayim chasdecha Eloi hei Avraham zechor li avdecha Chasdei Adonai askir tehi lois Adonai Maroim neda b'choyach igvira Moitzi oira meyin timira Pahachad yitzchok mishpteini hoira Ato gibor li oilam Adonai Li el kamoicha Oy seged oy lois yavi yakoyt meras hilois teferes Yisrovel shoy meyat filois kishmeya Elev yonim adoinai Yosvehes ovais yogain olaini Netzach Yisroel mitzurasayni golaini Imi bargo list alaini v'ha'alaini l'netzayach ha'o meleches beis adonai v'mi amenem mismahal yunika saneviyim netzach v'haid mehenim sorim yochini v'ayaz v'shahayim nekrovim v'chol b'nayich l'midei adonai Yisoy tzadik b'shivonelam Ois pres hili oilam Mayayin abrochot Tzadik yisoid oilam Tzadik ato Adonai Nokim b'meira malchis Dovid shloimai V'atorah sheitru loimai Knesses Yisroel Kala kriya benima Ateres tiferes B'yad Adonai Chazik miached kecha, dases sefirois, miached alef yireh meoirois, sapig izrosa miachad meirois, tikra vrinosayni lefonecho adonai, ein kelahaini, ein kadinaini, ein kemalkaini, ein kemoishiaini, Kelahaini, mi chadinaini, mi chitmalkaini, mi kamoishiaini, noidel eloihaini, noidel adinaini, noidel malkaini, noidel moishiaini, burech eloihaini, burech adinaini, burech malkaini, burech moishiaini, ati elohaini, ati adinaini, ati malkaini, ati moishiaini, ati elohaini, Bashamayim ivuretz gibor v'naratz dogel mevava Hisach v'ayehivet siven ivrohi zichron l'netzach hayolamim Tahorei nayim yoshev seisa kisoi Yishia levishay tzedakah matei kinanech bad nekamas yisoi yosher Tzusayim ena pelusayim es sadik v'yusha koev l'koev emes Ramim es nas eishoichin shchakim talolitz b'lim achavikim norim aram v'kudaish Shira Malloy, Bishibana Ishvestian Holmem, Oziman Takwinotion and Ozim, Vagam Dollars and Hagonas, Money Mercham, Shivana Ishvestian Kapikaminaker, the time Bedima, Berinik, Sidra, like Halakabaka, nice Meshach, Marina, nice, Shame you could Kuchabush can take the Khulukim and Yakashim, Kabab Kali, Tom Avanal, and Richard Slim Simply, so I'm looking at some comments with Sase, shall be some Muslim Slam of Haltus Waterberg. Are you gonna be home?
Why, you need to go out?
No, for $1. I'm wait for you.
Oh my god, I don't know. I have to go buy a bunch of stuff to make this thing.
Okay. I say, and all the government have sit to Kanin, this one, the sausage of Hassan. Let's see, lost a ticket Kadisha, Vachs, and I'm colleagues. Tomatilus, Sebefi, safe over Kolnishma, Selim, was in space of Shboy. Zekolodum, until suddenly, Labe, Piber, Kobos, the Shem control and wild. Barach and Rechia, Meat of Edilam, hallelujah.
Baby, you're staying here with Tati, okay?
Burkhat Warino, Hani Meluchu, Lama, Sanam to the Gabakan Behas, the Verachim. He nice and Lachim Lachol Bosaki, Alam Castai. He will to me like a Salon Alex, Salon Muslim Wild. Babish Moya Godoil, Ki Hills and of Nasal Committee, Lakan Muslim Lachobia Sabasha Bura. Come up to say Hasidach, a Spiel of Hard Saint Burkhat Warino. Hazana Sako. No Luchod and Earl Henry Halto listening. Erzchem the table Chava, which is near the Earl Henry, who signed Fleece and the race of Woodham. Balbury's Hush, some to Spain, and Walter Hush, and Kakash, and Tony. Alheim, and Kosich, and Tony. Oh, and Smoth Chatters and Places, and Holium, Holies of Polsha. Oh,
You have to stay here, it's Peggy's birthday.
Hakla and Earl Henry after my demolition, walking my second expression, Public Fight in the middle and white cookers and Holders, Mataverse, who has what in Niles will Mozain. Rachim no Adonai Eloheinu al Yisrael Machal Shalom Rachim al Kim Mishim Rachim Al Malchus based over Mashiach Chaval Bais of the Commission of the Eloheinu Avinu and some kind of parts of the Henry calls for signing no Alta no Eloheinu lo Yidayman is put to the Dom Glory there will be some Kimrei Cham Leipzig Kishav Chava Shleinei Vaishlani Kolonei Shalom Wed Say Vachlik Senu Adonai Eloheinu B'Shachim Shiyam Shabbos Adol B'Kodesh Hazeh, Kim Zadol B'Kodesh Yilut Nechel Shpos B'Zuniach B'Gava K'Vins V'Sin Necha V'Sin Chinech L'Nei Adonai Eloheni Shvoy S'Yitzad B'Gam Necha Reinu Adonai Eloheni Necha V'Sin Necha Yerushalayim B'Katzecha Ki Alta Hida'al Hi Yishiris Al HaNechumos B'nai Yerushalayim Yerushalayim Hai B'nai Burchat V'Adi Noi B'nai Yerachim Yerushalayim Amen Burchat V'Adi Noi Eloheni Melech Olam Hoel B'Gmal Kenu D'Reinu B'Reinu D'Gilin Sheni Kish Yaakov Ryan or so Malachativ made to Lakol Shabcholium Yom. Yaitiv Luni, Mighty Luni, Yaitiv Luni. Higam Luni Hugam Luni Hikbal, but then Ladl Hedel Hesel, Achman, Malabachan, Sol, Sachabrach, Mokonis of Khalrach, and Time Shulam. Volta Nicol Tivli, Alamoed Ali Hussein Men. Rachman, Himlech Moed Rachman Spech, which my boats Rachman Stabach, the Bedem, Scorban Ladl, Nechn, Suchem, Sadabon, Ladl, Element. Rachman finds any book over the Ravach. Rachman Spola, Goyim, Melts, and Hakum, Singing. Rachman Shlach, and Bracham River Bice, Zevel Shucha, Zeshapon Love. Rachman Shlach, and Salina of Zachlotoy. Vaseline, and Herbicides, Tivish, and the Homais. Rachman Rechois, Sishti, was nice, I was done. Scholarship items based on his items based on his arm. Scholarship items, Scholarship Motion Spoki, Aviseni, Abraham Bakov, Yitzhak, Mikol, Yankov, Kenny Rechois, Sunny. Plani Achav Shalem and Aimar Amen. But more Milam Doleim and Skutset, Shatem Mishmer Shalem. Lisa Brachavi Sadi Night Stock and Life Sinem and Second Mistake Tape Elohim Bodam. Rachman, Hinchilam, Shakul Shabbos, and Michel Chaylam. Rachman is a kingdom Kovenal Mr. Mashiach Chaylam Abba. Make Dolishis Malka Viseches and Mashiach Ludav Elam. Oisa Shalom Imraim of Yasa Shalom Alain Valkal Israel Bimraim. We said the night I should come back so if you Moshe read the Shadow Nilach so type. Hoy ladinoi ki toiv ki loilam chastoi psech hasidacha maspilach ol chartzen burcha gebe shiftach ladinoi vadim miftachai nai zigam zekanti v'lois tzadek nezav v'zam v'lakish luchem ladinoi oislam yitein ladinoi v'echsama v'shulam hashleich ladinoi havcha v'klachach alitin loilam meit tzadek hashlim sidas adabim nusa shlemasa desire k'dish Yisrael burcha mabdil ben kodesh l'choil. Alright, Mitzvah Hashem will be having Malava Malka about 9:15, 9:30 thereabouts. So welcome to join us again for Malava Malka. Gute Woche.